You made a promise, not to someone else, not to your parents, not to your friends, to yourself, and you broke it. Again, you said this year would be different. You said this time you were serious. You said, I'm done playing small, but here you are, same habits, same excuses, same life. And the most painful part, you already know it. Stay with me. Because what I'm about to tell you is the one thing standing between you and the life you keep promising yourself. Let's be honest with each other right now. There was a moment, you remember it, where something shifted inside you. Maybe it was at 2 a.m. staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of everything you haven't done. Maybe it was watching someone else live the life you always said you wanted. Maybe it was a birthday, a loss, a conversation that cut through everything. And in that moment you felt it, that fire, that clarity, that voice inside that said, enough, no more. This is the day everything changes. You felt invincible. You made the promise. You meant every word, and then Monday came and the old routine pulled you back in. And the resistance showed up louder than the fire, and slowly, without even realizing it, the promise faded. And you told yourself you'd start again, next week, next month, after this season, after things calm down, after you feel more ready. But here's the brutal truth. Ready is a lie you tell yourself to avoid the fear of beginning. You are never going to feel ready. You're never going to feel ready. Because the person you need to become lives on the other side of discomfort, not on this side of it. And every day you wait, that person gets further away. I want you to understand something about promises. A promise to yourself is the most sacred contract that exists. Not a business deal, not a legal document, not a handshake with another person. Your word to yourself. That is the foundation of everything. Because here is what nobody tells you every time you break a promise to yourself. Even a small one, you are not just failing a goal. You are teaching yourself who you are. You are building a belief deep in the core of your identity that your word means nothing, that your commitments don't hold, that when things get hard, you will quit. And once that belief takes root, it spreads. It spreads to your relationships, it spreads to your career, it spreads to your health. It spreads to every area of your life until you stop making promises at all because somewhere inside you already know you won't keep them. This is the real crisis. Not that you failed to hit a goal, but that you are slowly losing faith in yourself. And when a person loses faith in themselves, truly loses it, the light goes out. And I refuse to let that happen to you. So let me ask you something. When you made that promise, what did you see? Close your eyes for a moment and go back there. Who were you becoming? What did your life look like? How did it feel to finally be free of everything that's been holding you back? You saw it clearly, didn't you? That vision was real. That version of you is real. That life is not a fantasy, it is a possibility. A genuine, achievable possibility. But between who you are now and who you promised to become, there is only one thing, not time, not resources, not talent, not luck, decision. A real decision, not a wish, not a hope. Not a I'll try my best. A decision so deep and so final that it burns every bridge back to the old version of you. The kind of decision that says, I am no longer available to be the person I used to be. Have you made that decision? Really made it? Or have you just been hoping that motivation would do the work that commitment was supposed to do? Because here is the thing about motivation. Motivation is a visitor. It shows up when it wants. It stays as long as it wants. And when it leaves, and it always leaves, you are alone with the work. And this is where most people fall apart. They built their promise on a feeling, and feelings are the most unstable foundation you could ever choose. You cannot feel your way to greatness. You cannot wait for inspiration to do what discipline demands every single day. The people who actually change their lives, the ones who look back 5 years from now and cannot recognize who they used to be, they didn't feel like it either. They were tired, they were scared, they had doubts louder than yours, they had reasons to quit that were far more convincing than yours, but they had something else. They had a commitment that was bigger than their excuses. They decided on a day they didn't feel like it that they would do it anyway, not because it was easy, not because they were inspired, because they said they would. And their word to themselves meant everything. Now here's what I need you to understand about the promise you made. It didn't die. You didn't kill it. Life didn't take it from you. Circumstances didn't destroy it. It's still there, waiting, quietly, patiently, like an ember underneath the ash. And all it has ever needed is for you to choose it again. Not perfectly, not with all the right conditions in place, not when you finally figure everything out. Now, today, in exactly the state you're in. Because transformation doesn't start when everything is perfect. Transformation starts the moment you decide that who you're becoming matters more than how you feel right now. That is the moment. That is always the moment. And that moment is available to you right now. Let me tell you something about the person you promised to become. That person wakes up differently. Not because life got easier, but because they stopped negotiating with themselves every single morning. They made the decision once, deeply, completely, finally, and they stopped making it again every day. That person doesn't wait for motivation. They created systems, they built structures. They designed their environment so that doing the right thing became easier than doing the wrong thing. That person doesn't seek comfort. They learn to be comfortable with discomfort. They train their mind the way an athlete trains their body, deliberately, consistently, without expecting applause for it. That person doesn't make excuses. Not because life stopped giving them reasons, but because they stopped accepting reasons as permission to quit. You know what separates that person from you right now? Not months of work, not some dramatic transformation. One decision, followed by one action, followed by one more. That's the entire secret. The compound effect of small daily choices made by someone who finally decided to keep their promise. I want to talk about fear for a moment. Because underneath every broken promise, every delayed start, every "I'll begin tomorrow," there is fear. Fear that you'll try and fail. Fear that you're not capable of what you imagine. Fear that if you really go for it, if you really commit and it doesn't work, then you'll have proof that you're not who you thought you were. And so the mind does something clever. It keeps you in the planning stage. It keeps you researching. It keeps you preparing. Keeps you almost ready, because almost ready means you never have to face the failure. But here is what fear doesn't tell you: every single day you spend not trying, you are already failing. The fear of failure is itself the failure. The life you're not living is already the cost of playing it safe. And 10 years from now, 20 years from now, the regret of what you didn't do will be far heavier than any failure you could have faced. The pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of regret weighs tons. Which pain are you willing to carry? Stop right there. Ask yourself honestly, how many times have you started over? How many Monday mornings have you declared a new beginning? How many journals have the first 3 pages filled and the rest left blank? How many gym memberships? How many courses? How many plans? And ask yourself, what was different about those times? The answer is nothing, because you approach them the same way you approach everything, with enthusiasm but without identity change. You tried to change your actions without changing who you are, and that never works, because your actions always follow your deepest beliefs about yourself. If you believe, even quietly, even somewhere deep down, that you are not the kind of person who follows through, you will find a way to confirm that belief every single time. So the change doesn't start with your habits. It starts with your identity. You have to stop trying to act like a different person and become one. So how do you change your identity? You do not change it with a declaration. You do not change it with a vision board. You do not change it by feeling differently about yourself. You change it with evidence. Every small promise you keep to yourself, every morning you get up when you said you would, every meal you eat with intention, every session you complete when you wanted to quit, you are casting a vote. A vote for who you are. A vote for the kind of person you're becoming. And at first, the votes are small, and the old belief still feels true. But you keep voting, day after day, action after action, promise after promise kept, and gradually the evidence shifts. And one day you look in the mirror and you don't see the person who always quit. You see someone who keeps their word, someone who shows up, someone who is becoming exactly who they promised themselves they would be. That is the process. It is not glamorous, it is not fast, but it is real. And it is the only way. Now I want to speak directly to the part of you that is already looking for the exit, the part that is thinking, this sounds good, but it won't work for me. My situation is different. I've tried and it didn't work. Maybe I'm just not built for this. I hear that voice, I know that voice. And I need you to understand something. That voice is not protecting you. That voice is keeping you prisoner. That voice is the fear talking. That voice is the old identity defending itself. Because identities don't change without a fight. The old version of you will resist. It will send doubt. It will manufacture obstacles. It will whisper reasons why you can't. Your only job, your single most important job, is to show up anyway. Not perfectly, not fearlessly, not with total confidence. Just anyway, because courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is feeling the fear and choosing the promise over the comfort. Every single time. Let me paint you a picture. 2 versions of you. Same starting point. Same challenges. Same doubts. Version 1 listens to the fear, waits for the right moment, breaks the promise one more time, tells themselves tomorrow, stays comfortable, stays small, stays the same, and 5 years pass, and 10 years pass, and they look back at this moment, this exact moment, and they realize this was the turning point they missed. Version 2, they are scared too. They doubt too. They don't feel ready either. They make a choice. Right here, right now, today, they renew the promise. They take the first step. They don't wait for the feeling, they create the action. And day by day, rep by rep, choice by choice, they become someone different. And 5 years from now, they are living the life that the other version only dreamed about. Both versions started right here, at this exact moment. The only difference was a decision. Your future self exists right now. In every choice you make today, they are being built or destroyed. When you choose discipline today, you are giving your future self freedom. When you choose comfort today, you are giving your future self chains. Every morning you get up when you said you would, your future self gets stronger. Every promise you keep, your future self stands taller. Every time you do the hard thing, your future self becomes more capable. And here is what your future self wants to say to you: don't give up on me. I am worth the sacrifice. I am worth the discomfort. I am worth the discipline. The life I am living, the freedom I have, the person I have become, it was all built in the moments you chose to keep going when every part of you wanted to stop. Don't stop now. Not today, not when you are this close. Keep the promise. Let me tell you what keeping your promise actually looks like. It does not look like perfection. It does not look like never struggling. It does not look like waking up every day with unshakable clarity and motivation. It looks like getting up tired. It looks like doing the work when you don't feel like it. It looks like falling down and getting back up without drama, without a crisis, without quitting. It looks like a Monday that is hard followed by a Tuesday that is harder followed by a Wednesday where something shifts, and you realize you are further along than you were last month. It looks like showing up for yourself the way you would show up for someone you love, with patience, with consistency, with belief even when the results haven't arrived yet. That is what it looks like, and you are capable of every single part of it. This is the part where I need you to stop. Not tomorrow, not after the video, right now. I need you to ask yourself, what is the one promise I keep breaking? You already know what it is. It just came to your mind. That is the one. And I need you to ask, what is it costing me? Not in abstract terms, in real terms. What relationships are suffering? What potential is being buried? What version of yourself is waiting that you keep making wait? Feel the cost. Feel the real weight of it, because most people never let themselves feel it. They keep it numb. They keep it abstract. They stay in the comfortable fog of almost changing but never committing. Feel it, because that feeling, that honest, clear, undeniable feeling, that is your fuel. Use it. And now I need you to make a decision, not a wish, not a plan, not a I'll try. A decision. A decision that says the old version of me ends today. Not dramatically, not with a grand announcement, not with a social media post. In the quiet of this moment between you and yourself, you decide that your word means something, that your promise is sacred, that you are exactly the kind of person who does what they said they would do. Because you always were. The proof is not in your past. The proof is in this moment, in the fact that something inside you is still fighting, still listening, still refusing to give up even after everything. That fire never went out. It has been waiting, and today you choose to feed it. So here is what you do now, not next week. Not after you finish this video and think about it. Now one action, one small, real, concrete action that proves to yourself today that you are serious. Not a list, not a plan, not a vision board. One action. The one you have been avoiding, the call you haven't made, the workout you keep postponing, the conversation you keep delaying, the page you haven't written, the application you haven't submitted. One action today before this feeling fades, because the feeling will fade, it always does. But the action, the evidence, the vote for who you're becoming, that stays. And that one action becomes two, and two becomes a habit, and a habit becomes an identity, and an identity becomes a life. It starts with one. I believe in you, not because I know you, not because I have seen your track record, but because you are here, you are listening, you are still fighting for the promise you made. And that means the fire is still alive. The question is never whether you are capable. You are, you always were. The question is only, will you choose it today, in this moment, with all your doubts still present, with all your fears still loud, with no guarantees? Will you choose the promise? I believe you will, because this time is different. Not because the circumstances changed, but because you just changed. In this moment, reading these words, something shifted. Honor that shift. Don't let it be another feeling that fades. Let it be the moment you finally kept the most important promise you ever made, the promise to become who you were always meant to be. Stay focused. Stay committed. Keep the promise. And if this message moved you today, subscribe to Motiverse. This is a community built for people who refuse to quit on themselves, who show up even when it's hard, who keep their promises even when no one is watching. Drop "promise kept" in the comments if you are making the commitment today. Share this with someone who needs to hear it right now. Your promise is still alive. Go keep it.